Bye.
Thanks so much for the call. And I do want to remind everybody to listen to us on iTunes. .com. Don't forget to definitely check that out. And tomorrow night on the 9:30 on the East Coast time, we'll be right back here with New York criminal defense attorney Richard Herman. Let's go to Virginia and say hello to Mary is on the line. Good evening, Mary. How are you?
Hi, Jason.
Hey, Mary. How are you?
Fine. How are you? Hi, Jordan. You guys can hear me okay?
We hear you. We hear you just fine.
Okay, great. Well, I just wanted to say, just in reference to what that guy, the first caller, said, I find it very difficult to believe that anything Jodi Arias does is by chance or made a mistake. Everything that she has done, that I've followed through the trials and commentaries and everything has been, and the murder itself has been nothing but calculated, planned out, meticulous, and she knows darn well every move that she makes and why she makes it. And I would that even this last little bit of what she just did might have been to get her name out again in public because she feeds off of all of this. That's
Mary, I don't know that any, prisoner who can't, touch, their loved ones and their friends, wants to have that continue. I mean, that's psychologically traumatic.
But Jason, she's thrown her family under the bus.
Maybe, but she also has people that she wants to communicate with more directly. That is they say is the toughest thing about prison is the isolation aspect of it. Mm-hmm. But I think she probably just ran her mouth. Maybe she was trying to be tough, and it blew up on her. That's the bottom line. She got disciplined, perhaps. A bit of overkill as it goes, and I would concede that compared to what goes on in prison. But okay, Jodi, we heard about you again. Go back in your cell. We're done until the next time.
Well, Jason, can you answer one question because I wasn't really that aware of that there was another pending appeal. Who is it to, and what are the issues that they won on appeal?
Well, there's one appeal when someone is convicted after trial. They get to appeal to the Arizona Court of Appeals, and that's the same in Arizona, California, New York, Florida. It's pretty straightforward. The only time you go directly to the state Supreme Court is if there's a death sentence. So, I don't even know if the transcripts are done yet, and that'll be up to her appellate attorneys to go through the transcript and find what I would call legal errors that Judge Stevens made, that they believe she made, that would warrant a new trial. And
so errors of law and not
legal errors, correct. Legal errors. In the most extreme cases, there's always an issue raised of sufficiency of the evidence, but you got almost as good a chance of having a snowball fight in downtown Phoenix in the middle of August. So under natural circumstances, I might add. So it's going to go for a while. But that'll be up to the appellate attorneys to decide.
Okay.
And
all right. Well, thank you, and I'm glad I got to speak with you. I've seen you on television many times, and I'm glad I got to speak with you.
Well, thanks for calling in.
Okay. Thank you, Jordan, for having the forum.
Thanks, Mary.
So
Appreciate
we can ask the attorneys questions.
Absolutely, and call in anytime. Okay, let's go out to the California area. The area code is 323. Please state your name and where you're calling from. Your line is now open. 323 is the area code.
Hi, Jordan. Hi, Mr. Lamm. I enjoy you when I see you sparring with Nancy Grace.
Thanks for calling in tonight.
Who do we have?
I have a couple of questions. If you were the
What's your name,
attorney.
Dear?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's Diana. You have me blocked on Twitter, by the way.
I'm sorry.
That's quite all right.
We'll fix that up.
I was being rather annoying, so it's fine. But I have a question. If you were an appellate attorney, other than, of course, prosecutor misconduct, what would be the first issue you would address?
Well, it's very hard to Monday morning quarterback any case, but especially an appeal, because there are a lot of things that happened under seal, behind closed doors. So we
don't
really
you think
don't
there's
know.
Too much?
Judge Stevens, and I've said this in a lot of forums, I'm going to say it here, she took a lot of crap she didn't deserve.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, she did.
She's an excellent judge. She is a very, very kind person at a one-on-one level, and I've had nothing but the personal pleasure of interacting with her over many years. I think that she ran the trial in a way that the defense could not complain that they were cut off, so that more issues were created for appeal. And while it infuriated a lot of people and seemed like she was bending over backwards for the defense, I view it a little differently. I think she was giving them just enough rope that they could hang themselves with it, or Jodi Arias in that instance. So, it's really hard to say what the issues are. I do appeals as a criminal defense attorney, and sometimes when you think you have an issue, but then you actually read it in the transcript, it's not as good. Or on the other hand, you don't think you have much of an issue. You read it, you reflect on it, you do some research, and you say, "Oh wow, this is really great." So it's a very long and complicated process. It is tedious. It is the furthest thing from sexy that there can be in the law.
Yeah, because a lot of times it's just the wording. Sometimes the wording you can interpret it different ways. So you, as an appellate lawyer, you have to be a bit creative.
Well, I think you have to know the law, know what the issues are, and you have to know what makes a difference, because one of the things in appeals, and again, it really doesn't matter if we're in the state system around the country or in the federal system, there's something known as harmless error. And what that means is the appeals court can say, you know what, you're right, but it's harmless. It really didn't make a difference at the end of the day. So, we have to find error that makes a difference, would have changed the outcome, violated some principle of constitutional law, and generally affected the defendant's right to a fair trial. That's what an appeal is really.
I can't see anything that would have come to a different verdict for Jodi.
You never know. There's so much that listen, I was, I would say, probably as involved as can be. I was privy to a lot of things, and I don't come close to knowing what went on in the courtroom behind closed doors.
Okay, what do you think about the typo from Dr. Horn? And is the gunshot first or last? Would that be an appeal issue? Because didn't they already rule on this when they talked about the cruelty factor?
Well,
so
and that's an issue. The prosecutor
again?
changing the theory of the case, that is an issue, and it depends how the appellate lawyers brief it. That is, a significant issue, but it depends how it's presented, and it depends how the appeals court looks at it. I do not know who the three judges are that are hearing that case. Hang on. Work with me. I want to answer this for you. That, generally, I'll just say for Arizona, you have three judges on that appeals court, and they all have different backgrounds and perspectives, and, it's sort of luck of the draw, and they rotate. So there's a lot of variables in there, and I know what you're looking for. I hear it in your voice. You want to tell me that there's nothing there, that sentence is going to be upheld, and the bitch is going to live the rest of her life in prison.
Actually,
but
no.
It's a complicated legal thing.
If she would have decided to humiliate him and just throw all his dirty laundry out there for all his friends, PPL, and the church, women everywhere would have cheered her. Because he would use her, and she got back at him that way. But that's not what she did, and it's not only the brutality of the crime, it's the lies she told about him. I mean, she wasn't content to just, okay, I killed him. She had to talk about pedophilia, and he was abusive. She didn't let him rest in peace. And she just keeps stabbing at the family. But my question with the gunshot, both theories were presented in front of the jury. The defense, said that they believed it was first, and Juan says it was last. Since they were both presented in front of a jury, doesn't that negate it being an appeal issue?
It depends. It depends how it's presented in the appeal, what the law is. I haven't done the research. I have no desire or intent to do the research. I've got enough going on with my own cases right now. So, I don't know. But, clearly, I mean, you're telling us what we already know, that this case continues to strike very strong and personal chords with people, and it's keeping it alive. It's keeping it alive. This case was very personal.
What it is about this case that has us all so sucked in?
I don't know. You take a look in the mirror and you tell us.
I believe me, I'm trying to figure it out. I can't. I really don't know.
Well, help is available if you want it, Diana. But I'm just...
No, not yet. Wait till the appeal is turned down, then I'll let it go. But you said she only got one appeal. She also gets a PCR hearing, correct?
Well, let me explain. A PCR is something different, and for those of people listening who don't know what a PCR is, Arizona allows for what's called post-conviction relief. That is separate from a direct appeal to the Court of Appeals. In post-conviction relief, which is most common when someone pleads guilty, and in a guilty plea, you generally waive your right to direct appeal to the Court of Appeals. In that post-conviction relief, or PCR proceeding, there are two issues for the most part. Somehow that the sentence was illegal or incorrect, and most commonly that there was ineffective assistance of counsel. Now, ineffective assistance of counsel, for all you legal case law nerds, was laid out a long time ago in a case called Strickland versus Washington. It's a U.S. Supreme Court case. And the Strickland test basically says that you have to have serious attorney error, number one, and number two, actual prejudice to the defendant. Now, focusing on that serious attorney error, it's not just judgment calls that people make. I mean, if you have any type of reasonable explanation as to doing something or not doing something, that's going to pass the test. And that's a pretty high burden. But, look, think what you will of Jodi Arias' defense attorneys. They worked their asses off, and they did a hell of a job. And at the end of the day, whether you like it or not, they saved her life, and that's the goal of a capital defense attorney.
The thing that her supporters or anybody who slams him, they forget that for the first however many years, there were other attorneys first. And so by the time he got the case, she was still telling the story that it was two other people. So he was doing all that work trying to defend that, and then all of a sudden there's a switch. So all the preparation he had done, he had to start all over again and go, there was he went hunting, for people for the pedophile letters. She wasted all that time that he could, and he argued with her because that was not the way he wanted to handle the case. He says in his book that she was more interested in destroying Travis Alexander's reputation than she was in defending herself. Well, so that makes it. And can you imagine a client who just got their verdict, hasn't even had their penalty phase, giving an interview?
Only in my worst dreams. But no, you asked me about the PCR, and I want to kind of focus on that with the ineffective assistance and tell you that Kirk and Jen, they did a hell of a job. Like it or not, forget who the client is. They worked hard for their client, and as far as any PCR issues on ineffective assistance go, don't hold your breath. It's not going to happen. Okay.
Yeah, and thanks for the call. And they did their job. That is, that at the end of the day, you could hate them, love them, whatever. They got them all. They got, even though there's some, things about Juror 17 that's been coming out in the news. At the end of the day, all that matters, Jason, and you could attest to this, is that they got their client off from death. Correct?
Absolutely.
Now, Jason, you are a very a veteran attorney in the Arizona area. Now, some people don't like defense attorneys, but when they need them, they'll run to them. But I do want our friends listening in the Arizona area or any area